It's Media Freedom Day. It is on this day 21 years ago that the apartheid government banned 3 publications, the World, World and the Pro Veritate, a religious publication that was run by the late Beyers Naude. Well, the day later became known as Black Wednesday. To commemorate the event, the South African National Editors Forum, SANEF, is hosting a gala dinner tonight in Johannesburg. We cross live to our senior reporter, Chriselda Lewis. She is at the event. Very good evening to Chriselda. Very respectable build up to tonight's gala. What is expected to take place tonight?
Well, that's right, Shante. The South African National Editors Forum will be commemorating today, looking back to on this day in 1977, where the apartheid government had banned newspapers, detained and arrested activists that were basically pro-black consciousness, and those who were speaking out against the atrocities that the apartheid government was meting out against black people in this country. You'd recall, of course, that one or two of the founding members of the South African National Editors Forum, Matata Tseru as well as Joe Tolwe, were also amongst those who were detained and tortured for speaking out against the atrocities that the apartheid regime was meting out against black people in South Africa at the time. And I think, Shante, it's quite poignant that we have this discussion at this time. If we look at the events that happened in 1977, what exactly is the role of the media today? Is South Africa, is the media in South Africa playing the role that it is supposed to play? And I think most importantly, because the spotlight really has been on the media over the past couple of weeks. You'd recall, of course, the saga involving one of the big newspapers in the country, the Sunday Times, and the scandal that involved it, where it had to apologize for a series of stories that it had published, which turned out to be false. But not only looking at the South African media landscape, we must recall as well, if we look at what's happening around the world, if you look at media and politics as well, you'd know that Jamal Khashoggi as well, the Saudi journalist who disappeared under mysterious circumstances, is also one of the stories that has made headlines over the past couple of weeks into a month. So I think the discussion that is to be had here today is to really look at ourselves, including myself as a media practitioner, about what role we are playing in South Africa, in this democracy. Are we playing the role that we're supposed to play? Are we abiding by the ethical values? Do we understand the importance of the pens that we hold, the power of the pen itself? Let me join now Mary Papaya, who is one of the founding members of the South African National Editors Forum. She's also sitting on the subcommittee for media freedom within SANEF. Very good evening to you, Mary. I think, quite important that we have this discussion today when South Africa, within the media, we're facing our own challenges. Let's first talk about why it is important to reflect on 1977 and what took place then.
1977 was indeed a very dark time for us, a very dark time for media. You spoke about our 2 colleagues who were among the many who were detained, arrested and tortured. Now, when we look at 1977 and we reflect on it, which is what we're doing here tonight, it is about asking ourselves and looking deep in ourselves and saying, how and what do we do so that we never, ever get back to those dark days? It is also a time when we look at ourselves as journalists, as editors in media, and ask ourselves, are we doing what we should be doing? And it is also a time to look at the events that transpired the last few days. As you said, media has been under the spotlight. So all these things come under the spotlight today. This is a big event for SANEF. It also casts the limelight on the role of SANEF. What is it that SANEF should be doing in South Africa today? And we're looking at issues around ethics, certainly with the issue around the Sunday Times and the fact that it's put a dampener on today's proceedings. It tells us that we have to make sure that journalists understand how important it is to scrutinize sources, how important it is to make sure that the final narrative that they put out is correct. But the other aspect that we must celebrate is the aspect around self-regulation. You see, our Constitution protects the rights of the journalist. It means that journalists must be allowed to do their jobs freely, to do it ethically, and that is why it's so important that the Press Council, the Press Ombudsman, and that system of media scrutiny still survives, and we need to do everything we can to make sure that it survives. Needless to say, it is not to say that we are not here to hold ourselves to account.
Mary, unfortunately, I'm hearing from our producers now that we have run out of time. However, we will take the proceedings live and certainly hear what many of the speakers have to say about how do we scrutinize ourselves as the media, how do we correct some of the wrongs that have been made. And of course, you would know that some of the recent studies that have been done now in 2018 do indicate that the public confidence in media is waning. How could that be rectified? Perhaps the editors who are gathered here today would be able to shed a lot more spotlight on that, of course, and the media to be able to find solutions to some of the challenges that it faces in this democracy.
Thank you very much. SABC senior reporter Chriselda Lewis just taking us through the SANEF gala, which is taking place this evening. We will cross to that later on in this evening.